Hello, I'm Jill Botticelli, the Library Director for the Earl K. Oldham Library here on the campus of Arlington Baptist College. In this information literacy lesson, we are going to cover information sources and information retrieval. So what is information literacy and how can it help me? Well, information literacy gives you the instruction that you need to assist you in locating and identifying appropriate resources for all of your coursework here at Arlington Baptist College. It's going to give you the ability to identify what information you need, understand how that information is organized, and identify the best sources of information for a given need, locate these services, evaluate the sources critically, and share that information. While you're here at Arlington Baptist College, you will be asked to do many assignments and write papers and other coursework that will require you to use information. When we do this, we want to make sure that for college work, we are using scholarly information. And you will hear that term scholarly information as we continue with this lesson. Let's go ahead and define what scholarly information means. I have a definition here that says a scholarly article or book is generally based on original research or experimentation. It is written by a researcher or expert in the field who is often affiliated with a college or university. So now that we've defined scholarly information, how do we find it and how do we know that what we're using is scholarly? Let's look at some print sources. These are all magazines, or what we would define as magazines. The first group there are popular magazines, and as you can see, they're really brightly colored, they're eye-catching. These are geared towards the general public and tend to be about current events, popular culture, household help, and they are, for the most part, considered entertainment. The second group that we're going to look at are scholarly print sources, and those include journals. They're not quite as colorful. They are geared towards specific disciplines or specific areas of thought, and for the most part, the people that contribute for these journals are academic people. They are affiliated with colleges or universities. The last group there are trade magazines, and they are geared specifically towards different trades. As you can see in the example, we have Advertising Age that is geared towards the advertising industry. Clean and Hygiene is a janitorial service magazine. So these are specific to an industry. Let's take a look at a journal. We know that journals are scholarly sources, and this would be a great resource for you to use for one of your assignments. We know this is a journal because the title is Journal of Religion and Health. The cover is not as colorful and eye-catching as a popular magazine. We also can see that they are dated and numbered. This one is volume 50, number 4, and it's from December 2011. These numbers are important. They tell us which issue of the journal we're looking at, and you will need them for citation. Let's take a look at a journal article within this journal. You can identify a journal article by several things, and we're going to look at those. First of all, journal articles will have an abstract. An abstract is a summary of what the article is about. Secondly, a journal article will show the author's affiliation. In this example, it gives the author's name and credentials and who they are affiliated with. Journal articles also tend to have specialized vocabulary that is specialized to whatever discipline the journal happens to be about. And lastly, journal articles will have a bibliography at the end, or references that shows what resources the author referenced when they were writing the piece. Let's look at another example. I'm looking for an article on pilots for a research paper that I'm doing, and I found one in this magazine, but I don't know if it's scholarly or not. Let's take a look at this article and see if it meets the criteria that we just set for scholarly information. Firstly, does it have an abstract? On this particular article, there is not an abstract. We can't find something that summarizes what the whole article is about. Secondly, the author affiliation. Well, in this article, I couldn't find an author, so we don't know what this author's affiliation is. We don't know if they're an expert in their field, and so this does not meet the author affiliation criteria. Does this article use specialized vocabulary? Well, I read through the article and it used general vocabulary that most people would know. So I'm going to say that it doesn't have specialized vocabulary. And lastly, this article does not have a bibliography or any references. So this would not be considered a scholarly article. This would be considered a popular resource. And so I would not use this for one of my research papers. I would go and look for something that has more of an academic aspect to it. So we looked at some print sources, and now let's look at credible websites. We're going to use the internet for our studies here at Arlington Baptist College, so let's make sure that we're using credible websites, and we need to figure out how to identify whether a website is credible or not. There are 4 things that we're going to look at. We're going to look at the purpose of the website, the authority of the website, the currency of the website, and the objectivity of the website. First, let's look at purpose. We want to make sure when we're finding information that we understand the purpose of the website. In this example, it says your biblical counseling professor wants you to write a paper on medical side effects. Would this be a good source for impartial information? Well, this is a commercial website for Prilosec, and it is an over-the-counter heartburn medication, and the purpose of this website is to try to get you to buy Prilosec. So it's not going to be impartial because they want you to purchase their product. It would be better to look for a source that is just general information on medical side effects. Next, let's look at the authority of the website, or who the author is, or who's promoting this site. For this example, it says, your physical education professor wants you to research alternative forms of exercise. Would this be a credible source? Well, this website is about parkour, which is an alternative form of exercise, but who's writing about parkour, and are they an expert in their field? When we look at the author of this website, we see that he is Ludovic from France, and that he has a blog and that follows the evolution of the parkour world. Well, this doesn't let us know at all whether he's an expert in the field, what his credentials are, and therefore this would not be considered a credible or an academic resource. Next, we want to look at the currency of the website, when the site was developed or the last time that it was updated. In this example, it says your biology professor wants you to do a research presentation on cadmium. Does this site provide current research statistics? When you're looking at statistics, you want to make sure that you use the most current statistics that you can find. This example was last updated in April of 2001, so this would not be a good site to use for current statistics. Next, we want to look at the objectivity of the website, whether the website is biased to one point of view, whether it has an agenda, the people that are running the website have a certain agenda. This is a human cloning website, and the example says, your Christian ministry professor wants you to write a term paper on a current ethical issue. Would this be a source that provides arguments for both sides of the issue of human cloning? Well, within the very first few sentences, it lets you know that this is the official website of the Human Cloning Foundation, and it also says the #1 website in support of human cloning technology. So this would be considered a biased website because it's in support of one point of view. It's just important to keep that in mind. It's not necessarily a bad thing if that's what you're looking for, but you want to keep in mind that websites can be biased or they can have agendas. Now we've looked at what makes a credible website. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit and look at how to search the internet to find these sources. So the first thing we're going to look at is a keyword search, and most of you already know how to do this. We can go to Google and put in keywords, and it will pull up millions of websites. So what do we do if we want to broaden our search or we want to narrow our search? on the internet? Well, one of the things we can use are tools such as Boolean operators. And what that does is it allows us to use words within our search that can narrow our search, broaden our search, change our search. So let's take a look at some of these examples. The first example, we're looking for the football team Miami Dolphins, and we only want articles that are about the Miami Dolphins. We don't want articles about the Dolphins, Flipper, and we don't just want articles about a football. So what we do is we type in our search Dolphins and then the word "and" all in capitals like the example, and football. That's going to pull out of our search only articles that have the words dolphin in it and the word football in it. The next example, we're going to broaden our search. We didn't get enough articles. 1,000,000 articles wasn't enough. We want 2,000,000 articles. So in this example, we're going to use the word dolphin, the Boolean operator "or," and the word football. This is going to give us everything that has the word dolphin in it, the word football in it, or the words together. We're going to get lots and lots and lots of results. So the next example, we want just dolphins, the animal. We don't want Miami Dolphins, anything to do with football. So we're going to put the search in dolphins and not use the Boolean operator not football. That is only going to give us articles about dolphins. And our last example there, we want to search Dolphins football, and we want those two words to be together. So we're going to put quotation marks around dolphin and football, and that's going to give us any article where those two words, dolphin and football, are next to each other in that order. Let's do some more searching with using some search operators. So the first one we're going to look at is phrase searching, and that's what we just talked about, was where you put the two words together within quotation marks, and it'll pull any article where those two words are next to each other in that order. For the example, we have Atlantic Ocean. The next one we're going to look at is adjacency searching, and that's where you can put two words and use the Boolean operator near, and that's going to give you, in this example it says economics near policy, and that's going to give you any article where economics is close to the word policy. So you're going to get economics policy, you're going to get other variations of that, economics within the policy, you would get that. It's just going to broaden a little bit more than the phrase search. The next one is truncation searching, and that allows you to use a symbol, most often the star symbol, as a wildcard. In this example, it gives you the word regulat with a star symbol, and it shows you that it will retrieve regulation, regulators, anything that has that prefix of the word, it will retrieve for you. The next one is a letter replacement search, and you use the star, the asterisk, and you can, in this example, it has women where the last vowel is replaced by the star, and that lets you retrieve both the words woman and women. So that's going to give you a broader search. And the last thing we're going to look at is domain searching, where you can look specifically within domains. This is very helpful for academic searching, because you know that you can use credible websites if they are, related to a university. You can be comfortable that that is a credible website. If they are if they are government website, you can feel confident that those are credible. So the way that you use a domain search is, in this example, they want to get the word Shakespeare, but they want to make sure that the word Shakespeare is they only want to pull websites that are education websites, and which education schools, education institutions use the domain .edu. So when you're typing this phrase, you have to be sure that you type it a certain way. It's the word Shakespeare, a space, the word site, semicolon, .edu. If you were going to do a government site, you would just change that .edu to .gov, G-O-V. So this is a way you can use domain searching to narrow your search down to academic sources. Now we know what information we need. Where can we find it? At Arlington Baptist College, the Earl K. Oldham Library is your #1 resource for your academic pursuits. We have a library catalog, online resources, and our library staff is trained to help you in many ways, whether it's finding information, citation, help, picking topics for research papers. Feel free to come by and talk to us. That's what we're there for, and we'll be happy to help you. There are some other sources that I'm also going to leave you with. You can do a web search, use a search engine. There's many of those out there, Google, Bing. I'm sure you're familiar with search engines. Google has a source called Google Scholar, and it offers scholarly information. So if you use Google Scholar, you know that what you are looking at is scholarly. There's also a website called the Internet Public Library. It's at www.ipl2.org. This is a really great site because one of the things that they offer is you can ask them questions, and a library student that's in graduate school will answer your questions. So they're going to make sure that they give you scholarly sources. So the only thing you want to make sure when you use the Internet Public Library is that you don't wait till it's the night before your assignments due, because they take 48 hours to respond to your question. So, but it's a very good source, and I would recommend that you take a look at that. If you still are unsure, you can always ask me. You can come by the library, or you can ask your professor. You can call us at the library anytime you want. Our number is 817-461-8741. We're at extension 127. Or you can email us at helpdesk@arlingtonbaptistcollege.edu.